Hello there. Once again, you decide to take another revealing peek back into history.
What famous date shall I set it to today?
Thank you for joining us on this throwback episode of Vicis Interimo, the awesome podcast with the unpronounceable name. Since we've been doing this for well over a decade now, looking back at these shows is kind of fun, seeing what's happened in the world of horror and what happened in the world in general back then. But before we get into the show, I'd like to thank our current patrons at Lonely Bob, Big Al V, and Goldafish. And one other reminder, and that is any links or things you may hear mentioned in the show may no longer exist or be clickable. Be that as it may, I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to Vicis Interimo, 30 Minutes to Kill. I'm your host, Michael Mad Saxon Jones, with my lovely wife, Lori. This is episode 129. Today's movie review is The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer. And we've got a few things before that. A Laid to Rest segment where we wrap up any notes regarding last week's show. The movie, we'll give a review of the movie, and then we'll finish up with Garbage In, Garbage Out. Or actually, what we'll finish up with is our Crawling Chaos. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to need to be really entertaining today because these movies we're going to talk about today suck.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh,
okay.
Whoops, that's a spoiler alert.
Well, now people don't have to listen to the podcast. They can just shut it off now.
Well, there's a few points maybe worth talking about. And I guess people should just be forewarned before they watch any of the movies that we talk about today. But anyhow, yeah, let's move it along here.
Okay.
We'll get into our Laid to Rest. For Laid to Rest, we didn't have too much to cover, I don't think. I just want to say a huge thank you to all of the folks in Argentina that downloaded our podcast for the first time, and to everybody else that enjoyed our midweek podcast on Daemonium, our special feature. That was a lot of fun. We're going to have Walter back for that, and I think the show came out pretty good. What do you think?
I think so, too.
Okay.
Yeah, we had really good response, and we had a lot of hits and a lot of downloads, so yeah, that was kind of cool.
It pushed us up to number 8 in our category for a day or two, so...
Yay, we're number 8. Well, not anymore.
Well,
we're dropping quickly.
I don't think we are. We're actually setting at 8 today, as far as I knew. So anyhow.
You know, we've gotten as high as number 3.
Well, it's up to us to do that again. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover from the Dagon episode?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just aside from the responses we got back from that one was that nobody agreed with me and everybody agreed with you, so whatever.
Well,
the whole misplaced gore thing.
Well, you know what? When I talked with Jason from Horophilia, he had made a comment on there, and I can sum it up with a few words, and that is, I didn't have fun with the movie. I saw it as an inevitable descent into madness or death.
Right.
Which is pretty much how I tried selling the Call of Cthulhu game when I first started playing with my friends, and they didn't see that as a selling point. But anyhow, yeah, going back to the movie Dagon, it was, I saw the inevitability of what was coming, and so...
But again, were you not watching Paul and things that were going on?
I was, and I appreciated him, but
corny. Well, then something was wrong with that then, because it was corny, and there was bits of humor thrown in, a little joking around, he was bumbling and silly, and then, like I said, all of a sudden you're getting a very serious, gory scene. So, I'm sorry. For me, it was just like, wait, what? Why are they doing this?
Okay, well, folks can go back and listen to that episode if they want to hear us talk about that. But
well, and you know, and a lot of people like gore and like that element in their horror. So, you know, maybe a otherwise boring movie, maybe that's when it really, like, finally, for some people, maybe that was when the movie finally got going and became horror.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
I love H.P. Lovecraft stories, so the whole thing was just a really great H.P. Lovecraft story for me. And yeah, still it was just like a misplaced gore scene for me. So
okay.
Anyway, moving right along.
Well,
this is only 30 minutes to kill.
That's true. With that in mind, let's move on to our review. Okay, let's have you read the synopsis first, and we'll go from there, and then I'll get what I have off my chest.
Okay, well, The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer. This was from 2003. Now, it says here it was rated R. It also said on the disc when we got it that it was rated R. I think that's a mistake. Anyway, here we go. This prequel to Stephen King's television miniseries Rose Red chronicles Ellen Rimbauer's doomed marriage to a wealthy, sex-crazed industrialist and their occupation of the enormous Seattle mansion that harbors evil forces. Passages from Rimbauer's diary detail her descent from an innocent and submissive wife into a woman fighting a losing battle against the dark spirits that dwell within her home.
Okay.
It's pretty thorough.
But it's so incredibly wrong, or at least...
thorough but wrong.
Yeah, I mean, everything there, but I was absolutely prepared for an R-rated picture. I was looking forward to some cheap titillation and maybe a little bit of horror and scary ghosts.
And she was married to a sex-crazed industrialist.
Yeah, so I figured, okay, we'll get a little skin in here and a little of this and just nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Oh.
Well, this was, again, from a miniseries, or it was rather,
it's first and foremost billed as a horror here under its genres. It's horror and supernatural horror.
Yeah.
So what in the world happened here?
Well, there were elements of it, and my first note on here is seems good in theory, and I'm glad that I wrote it like that, because in theory it was good. We even talked about whether we would even do this as a podcast. And I wrote that this is a split decision, because while I was disappointed because I had already set up in my mind, hearing that there's an R rating, hearing the synopsis of what it was going to be, I had in my mind what I was ready to watch and ready to see. Right. Aside from that, academically, there are things worth, I think, discussing about it. But anyhow, I'm getting ahead. I was going to let you go ahead. What were you going to say? Or where do you start? I
don't know. Well, what do you think the story... Was that an accurate...
It was a pretty accurate depiction of what the story was in general.
Okay.
And so I think...
And of course, it sounds like they just move into this house, but the husband actually has this house built. So they're the first people to live in it. There should not be any crazy spirit action going on in there, unless they, there's always the classic, you built it on a graveyard.
Well, I think that came up in there, yeah.
Well, yeah, it was that, and somebody died on the job there when they were constructing it. There was a fight and a scuffle, and someone had a shotgun and killed another man.
Right.
And it was funny because they're like, oh, well, they were Irish. Like, awesome. Oh my gosh, I have Irish blood, so I can say that. But it was like, what? Oh my gosh. Wow, subtle humor, I guess. I don't know. Was that supposed to be funny?
Yeah,
I don't know. I almost don't even feel like I have much to say.
Really? Well,
go ahead. Sounds like you got something.
No, I mean, I was going to ask, as far as strictly speaking about the movie, then what did you think about the characters? Did you like everybody in there? Everybody that played their part, the actors as the characters? Did you?
Yeah, I guess so. Everyone did a fine job as far as the actors, and the characters, I guess, were all fine. I don't know. I just felt very lukewarm about everything and everybody.
Okay.
There was the oil tycoon. His name was John,
mm-hmm.
and of course Ellen was the wife. and they get married, and
I'm sorry. It seemed to me that you had said that you were kind of even more lukewarm, if that's possible, about Ellen's portrayal when we were watching it.
I wasn't sure about her acting at first.
Yeah.
I just felt like the delivery of the lines were a little flat, but she wasn't, I guess maybe she wasn't given a whole lot to work with.
Well, since this is kind of the Victorian times, that kind of is what I put it off on.
You think back in Victorian times, people had trouble delivering their lines?
Maybe.
They were so stiff.
Well, yeah, definitely being stiff, and she struck me as being naive.
Been that stiff, though. I mean, her husband was kind of wild and crazy, and I was about to say, when you so rudely cut me off, that they got married, and then they did some world traveling and went to Africa, and you find out that her husband has some interesting sexual appetites, I guess you could say. Not worthy of a rated R.
No.
And actually, I looked on here and it says, why is it rated R? And it says some sexual content. So, wow, really? Anyway, so they're down in Africa and they pick up a woman from down there, which sounded wrong. Ellen actually picks her up and brings her back to just be like her I almost want to say like just advisor and helper. I don't want to say she did a little house cleaning and help caring for the children and stuff, but she wasn't brought back to be a housekeeper and nanny. She's more of a friend.
She was a friend and a confidant.
Yeah, her name was Zucchina, and I actually liked her character. She was so beautiful too.
Yes, very.
She definitely added something that the movie needed. But, you know, they had a couple of friends, Connie and Douglas, that kind of tied into the story a little bit. Douglas was the man John's partner, and there was some kind of funky stuff going on there. And, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
you know
here's what I was looking forward to when the movie started was I was looking forward to seeing all of these different cultures and folklores tied in together. Now, we talked about this as being...
Did you see that?
Well, I didn't. That's what I was saying. I was looking forward to that. We've already had the stage set for us in Rose Red. We've seen that. I don't know if the audience necessarily has. But we have, you know, because they make reference to her diary, and this was actually written, this wasn't a Stephen King story, but rather it was written as kind of a wraparound for
right.
the movie, basically to tie up the loose ends. It was the Diary of Ellen Rimbauer, My Life in Rose Red, and it was written by Ridley Pearson under a pseudonym, and it was based on the Rose Red. So we knew kind of what, or at least I knew kind of what I was going to see, or some of the elements of the story, because, you know, some of the deaths that take place are mentioned in Rose Red, and they refer back to this. So I knew some of those things were coming. But here's the thing. They had the African religious and, what do I want to say here, rituals. We also had the Victorian spiritualism. And then we also had the Eastern philosophy coming in, because one of the spirit mediums that they go to is Asian. And so I'm looking forward. I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, maybe we'll get into some interesting folklore, some stories there that, you know, are going to be good. And that just didn't happen.
No.
So I was disappointed on that level. And again,
it had a lot of potential.
It really did. Yeah.
And the story, I think, was good.
Yeah.
But the delivery was just blah.
Yeah, it was delivered as a miniseries. This was, 90 minutes or so? How long?
I don't know. Sure, 90 minutes. No, I don't know. I'm just saying that. 88. You were very
88 minutes.
Close.
Okay. So, and it had the feel of a, you know, miniseries or a television movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could feel, the commercial breaks were in there.
Yeah.
Every now and then the screen went dark and we'd say to each other, commercial break. Yeah. So it was definitely made to be a miniseries on TV. Why the rated R? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and so
as far as you said with the different cultures and things working in, that it needed a lot more of that. I think that would have, well, it wouldn't have maybe saved it for me, but it would have definitely added a lot more interest. And the woman you mentioned, the Chinese woman, her name was Madame Lu, and she was a spiritualist. And one of the friends of Ellen takes Ellen to her to talk to her about the house and stuff. And I thought, okay, I thought we were gonna get to know the woman, but we kind of don't.
Right.
They have a short exchange, and then later on in the movie, the woman comes to the house to do a seance, and that all went very quickly too. And
yeah,
it was, I don't know, man, it was just missing so much.
It definitely was. And one of my favorite things, or one of the things that I'm interested in, I'm going to go back to it again, and it sounds like it's the only book I've ever read on the subject, but William Kalusha's book on Houdini, the making of America's first superhero. I keep going back to that because it struck me so much that spiritualism was almost considered a religion in this Victorian time. And it was also kind of a fun party thing where people would get together and try to have seances and contact the dead. And the whole fact that this idea could be traced back to a single incident really fascinated me. And because in the meantime, I'd always thought, like, you know, all these spirit things have like the same feel to them, or these same components. You know, you have your dark room, you all sit around, you hold hands, you have a crystal ball in the center, and those type of things. And it struck me that, you know, why is this? So this book answered some of that for me. So it was interesting for me to see that in this movie.
The Houdini book answered it for you.
That's correct.
Right.
And so that, you know, I thought some of that interest would carry over for this movie, and it just didn't. Like I said, I wanted to see how those things interacted, the different cultures, and that. Right. It just didn't happen.
Sorry.
Why are we talking about it? Would we recommend it? The only person I would recommend this to is somebody that is really deeply into Stephen King and has to be a completionist, and because it does tie in with Rose Red. If you saw Rose Red and you enjoyed it and you want to know, you know, you want to see a TV movie about filling in some of the gaps,
yes,
then this does that. But that's the only reason that I could recommend watching it.
I agree. I would only recommend it to fans of Rose Red.
Yeah.
I really can't see anyone else being that interested in it.
Yeah.
Because I liked Rose Red when I saw it, and this, I don't know.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Well, briefly, weren't really any standout visual effects, I don't think. They were okay. No. Nothing stood out as being bad, but
I just liked the scenery, you know, the location, the sea behind them. The house was really cool. It was a period piece, so you got all of the cool old costumes.
Right.
You know, you got all the neat clothing, and the cars were great because it was all turn of the century, so the cars were really early.
Right.
All of that was really well done. They put a lot of money into it.
I was going to say the one thing that we didn't talk about. Well, it seemed like it. Yeah, it did seem like they had a liberal
I wasn't in on their budget meeting, so I don't know that for a fact. But it appears that they had a lot of money to put into it. But unfortunately, it was just the little things that needed to be worked. And not the story was great. The sets, the scenes, the cost, the actor, everything was great. What went wrong?
I don't know.
And that's just done so subtle and just a little boring.
That's going to be the theme for the other movies that I want to talk about in Garbage In, Garbage Out also.
Oh, man.
But here's the one thing that we didn't mention as far as the connection to arguably real life events, and that is it has a feel of the story of the Winchester House, if you know that.
Oh, yes.
You actually had a chance to visit there, yeah?
Yes, I've been there.
I'd love to go there and check that out myself, too, but...
Well, let's go on a road trip. We'll stay with Stan. Get ready for us, Stan. We're coming.
All right. Well,
But if people don't know what the tie-in there was, or similarity, we should say not tie-in, but at one point, towards the end of the movie, the house lets the woman Ellen know that the house wants to be always in construction. It wants to always be built.
Right. And basically it comes down to where she believes that if there is construction continued on the house, she's going to live longer, or she would live as long, as there's construction on it.
So, of course, with the Winchester Mystery House, which is a real house and a real woman who lived there, spirits were telling her to continue construction on her house as well. So I have to guess that's maybe where they came up with the idea.
Maybe some of the inspiration there, yeah. Real quickly, we already said who would recommend it for. What would you give it for a rating? Would you rate it?
I don't know. 4 or 5.
Wow. Okay. I was going to say 3. I would give it like a 3, but to people, like I said, the completionists, if you got nothing else to do and you're prepared for it, it might have made a difference if I didn't think it was going to be an R. It might have made a difference.
Yeah. Well, if it was rated R, it would have been a little more souped up, and maybe that's what it needed.
Yeah.
It needed a little more something.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because
a little more intensity in everything that it did.
Yeah.
I'm going to read you really quick the number 1 top review.
Okay.
On Netflix. This person gave it 2 stars out of 5.
Okay.
And they said, I am probably one of the very few people that liked King's Rose Red miniseries. That being said, the prequel attracted my interest. The film was nowhere near as atmospheric and spooky as Rose Red was, but I found it to be an okay diversion on a rainy day.
That's perfect.
Yes, don't expect any big jumps or a sleepless night, but there are a few creepy moments. Yeah. If you rent Rose Red and enjoy it, give this film a look-see. If you haven't seen the original miniseries, then hold off on this film until you do.
Wow, we could have saved the last 15 minutes if you just read that.
I could have just read that and said, we agree with this person.
Exactly.
Yeah. Their name's not on it. I'd give them credit if it was here.
Okay.
Netflix is doing things a little different on here, but anyway, this is the voted number 1 review on Netflix for this movie.
Well, if you can second that vote or whatever, I would do it, because I agree. I think they hit the nail on the head.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about garbage in, garbage out.
Okay. Talk about garbage in, garbage out. So, how about that garbage in, garbage out?
Yeah, well, we put some garbage in this time, didn't we?
I don't remember, so we must have.
Okay.
Because my mind is a blank.
Give me a couple lines about Hop.
Oh, Hop. Man.
I could hear the disappointment in your voice just then.
Yeah. Well, it's a kid's Easter time movie.
Is it? Because I say it's got milk money syndrome. Because who wants to see a 20-something or whatever, slouching around on the couch?
Right.
That doesn't want to get a job or...
I was going to say that's what it was supposed to be. A kid's Easter. Yeah, I don't know. And that bunny, I'm sorry, that bunny was annoying because it was still, what's his name, doofus? Russell Brand. It was still him.
Yeah.
He gave me anxiety. He was like not a cute little bunny. He was just destructive and annoying, and you wanted to just kind of drop kick him out into the ocean.
Almost like watching him playing Arthur, but then not quite Arthur. At least you knew what you were in for, and I thought he did an okay job with that.
You know what? Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by Arthur.
Yeah. Hop, not so much.
A little bit of charm. This one, I think I would only recommend this to, I don't know. I was going to say to kids that don't need a strong story or anything, because the story was it was okay, I guess. I don't know. I like the rabbit's dad. I don't know. Oh my gosh, and those chicks. What were up with the chicks?
I don't know. Talk about
chicken
man.
Chicks, not like let's talk about chicks, man. Yeah, not those kind of chicks. Yeah, those were creepy and weird. I don't know. They looked like little yellow fluffy chicks, but they were adults, wasn't it? Penny from
Big Bang Theory, yeah.
Big Bang Theory, yeah. And she was Penny, only smarter. But I love her, so it was nice seeing her, and I enjoyed her eating the jelly beans. We learned where jelly beans come from.
No, because we've made jokes about that in the podcast before about things coming out the jelly bean chute, and
yep. You didn't know that bunnies pooped jelly beans?
I did, but they're brown and they're all over our yard up in Chilcoot.
Okay, those weren't jelly beans.
Well, anyhow, the other thing that we watched was The Order, and I almost considered flipping and doing The Order for the podcast this week, but we won't.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
what do you think about The Order?
Kind of like the Ellen Rimbauer. I don't have a lot to say about The Order either.
Okay, that's good. I'll say it then. I loved it, but I couldn't recommend the movie to anybody that wasn't deeply into religious iconography and dogma, because it was a tremendous story, and I think that it just, again, there was something a little bit wrong with it, though. The pacing was bad, or...
I want to read the book. Is there a book? Because I loved the story. Or just give me don't give me the script to read. I don't know. It was a great story. It
really was. Briefly, the film revolves around an investigation of a suspicious death of an excommunicated priest and the discovery of a sin-eater headquartered in Rome. In the first place, well, I've heard of sin-eaters before and so on. One of the other movies that made me think about this was a movie that came just after this one, The Final Cut. So anyhow, that was one of the other places that I really got thinking about this, and this movie obviously reminded me of that one.
Well, now in this movie, basically, if you are someone who your sins are so terrible, the church will not let you come in and be forgiven. The sin eater, he's an immortal, but he's merely a man.
Mm-hmm.
And you could hire him. He'll come in and he will absorb your sins. So that will allow you to move on to heaven.
Right.
And he takes on the sins for you. So you're not damned. So it's going around the church.
Cool concept and everything. It didn't occur to me, again, I'm not Catholic, so it didn't occur to me, though, what an affront this would be, because now you don't need the church to be saved. It's slow moving. So be ready for that.
And it was unfortunate. And Heath Ledger he stars in it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, of course, always good in everything.
And he was in there with his buddy from Knight's Tale.
Yes, he was.
Is it Shannon Sossamon? I'm sure I'm butchering that name. Is that it?
That's close enough. You're doing better than I can. Bro.
Okay.
That's scary.
Well, anyhow, they both play tremendous parts in there. Yeah. So anyhow.
I think if you're interested in that story, I would absolutely recommend it. If what we just talked about, that little bit, sounded intriguing, I would go for it.
Definitely.
But just don't expect, it's not an action movie.
No, though the action does pick it up near the end. But
there's some fun stuff in there, though.
There's some really good stuff.
Some kind of crazy. Yeah, a little bit of supernatural, a little
Peter
bit of...
Weller's in there.
What?
Peter Weller's in there.
Yes, he is.
The RoboCop, not...
That's right.
This other crap that's coming out.
I thought you were going to say the Peter Weller. I was going to say, what?
Yes.
How many are there?
Buckaroo Banzai. Anyhow, RoboCop. Don't get me started on that.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Please. I saw that new outfit.
Let's talk about some crawling chaos and see what you have for us.
Okay. This week, I thought I would ask you if you've ever heard of a UFO being at the bottom of the Baltic Sea.
Yes, I have.
Oh, no, is that because you just heard it on the radio the other night?
Not just because I heard about it last night.
Okay, you knew about it already.
About a month ago, though, I heard something either on TV or something we were watching that talked about
Get out of here.
I heard it referred to as a Millennium Falcon-shaped item. Thing underwater, and that wasn't just last night. I heard that before.
Okay, well that's the latest. They're saying now they think it's shaped like the Millennium Falcon, which I think is wonderful and great because I just love stuff like that. Bigfoot is out there, and so is Nessie, and UFOs fly over our house every night.
And they're hanging out the Millennium Falcon undersea.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, it may not be the Millennium Falcon, like the Peter Weller, but yes, quite a few months back, I ran into a video on YouTube. So you can actually go onto YouTube and just do a search for Millennium Falcon and Baltic Sea or Baltic Sea and UFO, and you'll get all kinds of videos. Of course, there's this object that they found at the bottom of the sea that they can't identify. It's large. It's oval. They describe it as it's flat. It's round, round in shape. It's not a natural. It doesn't look like any other part of the natural terrain, and it appears to have a giant, like it made a track in the bottom, like it crashed and it hit the bottom and then dragged along the bottom and made a giant, wow.
Skid mark?
There you go, a skid mark. Okay.
I don't know, a crater, a crevice,
valley, a hole.
Okay.
A trail. There
okay.
We go. I'm sorry. It's so hot in here. Can somebody finally turn the heat down? I'm about tired of this weather. Anyway, yeah, you might want to cut some of that out, but so I'd seen the video of it and saw some footage of this thing, and it was kind of interesting. I mean, it looked like, okay, it's just a big piece of flat rock or something, but I love stuff like this. But yeah, the latest, just the last couple months or so, they're saying that it's shaped like the Millennium Falcon, which is really funny. I've got a website here. We'll put it in the show notes, but there's a picture of it here, and somebody drew an outline around it so you could see the shape. But anyway,
nice.
Yeah, so that's kind of fun.
Okay, well, that's a new fact that has come to us in the last week.
Look at these pictures.
Look at
the shape. That is not a natural shape.
That sure isn't.
So what is it?
It's the Millennium Falcon. You've got me convinced.
What is it?
All right. Well, let's...
And I think the reason why, if you heard him talking about it on TV recently, and I know we heard something about it the other night on the radio, because we listened to George Norrie, they're just in the last couple months, they went down there to check it out again. So it's an ongoing thing.
Okay.
And this article that I have here was from June 27th, 2012. So that was just a couple months ago.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a current, that's what's cool about it too. It's like happening now. People are trying to figure out right now what it is.
Sweet.
I don't mean this second, but
Well, they probably are. Just
maybe.
Not right here.
Oh, and the other thing that's cool about it is that whenever they get within 200 meters of it, all of their electronic equipment goes out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
So there.
Okay.
That's something.
That is something. We're going to wrap it up. As always, you can get in contact with us directly by emailing me at madsaxon@yahoo.com. Look us up on Facebook. Punch in Vicis Interimo, VICISINTERIMO. Or you can catch us on the Horrorphilia network of podcasts. And you can find us a ton of other places. I actually did what I often suggest other people do and just punched in Vicis Interimo to see where we showed up.
You mean in the internet?
In the internet.
In the internet? On the internet?
We're on Blueberry.com. We're on Podfeed.
What's Blueberry?
That's Blueberry. We dropped the E's. It's BLUBRRY.
Oh.
Blueberry.com. It's a place for podcasts. We're on Podfeed.net, Mirpod.com, Musicago.com, Podbean, Podcasters FM. We can find us anywhere. We're everywhere.
Wow. Hot
It's...
beans and blueberries, and I'm getting hungry. I think I'll go make a salad. Fruit salad.
Yay. So really, and Stitcher Radio, where else? Everywhere. You can find us every place.
Everywhere.
Keep liking us on Facebook.
And if you haven't checked out Daemonium yet,
oh yes, absolutely.
You can check out our last episode. We did a midweek special, and I think you mentioned that at the beginning of this one. We talked to Walter Rivero, who is a associate producer of Daemonium, which is a really cool sci-fi horror out of Argentina. And right now you can see it on YouTube. And episode 1 is out right now there for you to watch. So go check it out.
And join Saturn Apartments.
Oh, Saturn Apartments. Yes, last time I don't want to go there.
Okay, we won't.
Everybody hates my fan page, Saturn Apartments. So go on Facebook and look up Saturn Apartments.
All right.
You could click the like button if you like. There's no hate button, so
Okay, well, we better end this madness now.
Okay, I do thank everyone who did join, though. I appreciate it. I got 23 people, so.
Woohoo!
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Come back next week.
Come back next week. What was that?
I don't know. I ran out of things to say. My brain is fried at this point.
It sounded like, oh man. I don't know. Mermaid Man. Come back next week.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, you better stop.
Oh my gosh, they're still listening.